Hello and welcome to Game Soup with Chloe and Kayla. This is a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Kayla. How are you doing today, Chloe?
I'm good. I've had my first coffee in weeks and I'm wired, so weird
Oh.
weird energy coming into this episode, I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's great, as I feel slightly sluggish today, so we'll have a sort of I feel like we drift a bit, but I feel like ordinarily I am the higher energy one on this podcast as our roles.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Like I sort of stretch my legs a bit and I'm into it by minute 10, but normally I'm falling asleep at the start.
Yeah, so we might get a fun bit of role reversal here, or maybe not.
Um,
Do you want to plug the sale you're doing at the top of the episode, by the way?
Yeah, let's do that. So my car broke down, and cars are expensive, so please go to itch.io/biscuitfundgames. I think that's the thing. If not, then it'll be in the description.
Or it might be the other way round of biscuitfungames.itch.io.
Biscuitfund.itch.io. I've looked it up now.
You don't have the games in there, fair.
No, because if you're on itch, I assume your games anyway.
Fair.
Yeah, all of my stuff that is good and bad and everywhere in between is 50% off. Go buy it so that I can afford a new clutch for my car, please.
Yeah.
Or at least afford the bus for the next week and a half.
Do you have like a bundle price sale? Like, is there a big price for buying everything?
If you buy everything, it's $50.
Damn!
And then everything is half off as well. So it is cheap to get everything together because it's like 4 or 5 games plus the Levante papers plus all the expansions of the tournament arc plus all the zine stuff I've ever done. So, it's basically an instant collection. If you ever want to get into Chloe Montgomery and Alyssa Ridley's games, now is the time.
Yeah, people should check that out. This episode is coming out on Friday, the day before Valentine's Day. Do you have any Valentine's Day plans? Or have you been in a relationship too long to have Valentine's Day plans anymore?
Well, I learned about a week ago that Alyssa's going to Warhammer World on Valentine's weekend. I'm not going, though. I wasn't invited. So...
Is she going with, like, another woman? Is this a scandal on the podcast?
Yeah, a group of other women who played Warhammer. Not like... I doubt there'll be any kissing other than putting 2 miniatures next to each other and say, "Ooh, Lupus Kane's kissing your Marine." Like...
So, no plans here. I need to think of... I will have, by the time this episode is out, thought of my Valentine's Day plans.
Yeah.
But we are recording this early enough that if my boyfriend is listening to this, I just want to emphasize I don't think it's concerning that I haven't I've mainly decided.
Have you bought a card, though?
No, I'll do that sooner. I don't know. Do I do?
You meant to lie. You meant to say you did it months ago because you love him so much. God.
I think as long as if you are doing cards, I think as long as you get them by the day, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know if I'll do a card.
It's gone by the day before, so
I think it depends where, because there's a lot of places that sell cards in the shopping center by me, so I'm not really going to be in an issue for that. But you had a couple of game ideas, and I think the first one is a nice tie-in for a sort of Valentine's Day thing.
Yeah. So I was thinking in a sort of, what's the night game that you've been making based on something we wrote is Gallant and Virtuous or something?
Yeah, the Gallant and the Virtuous.
I fucking nailed
not entirely night game, but like a about jousters and stuff. Because most of you are likely knights, but you can play one character who's like a commoner, which is its own sort of fun thing. But yeah, you're meeting up at joust, and that's kind of like all of your encounters, and then you're having time skips in between that until eventually one person dies at the jousts.
Yeah. So, companion game to that. It's a game about the squires of these knights and the little misadventures they get up to, dealing with their bosses and whatever relationships they're getting up to, but also trying to find time in between the jousts to go sneak off and kiss in the horse shed.
So is this a 2-player game, I assume?
I like it. I think it works best as a 2-player game, and we could do like it's probably a hack of Star-Crossed or whatever the hell, but
Well, I think it's if you're doing a romance-centered thing and it's not a 2-player game, you really don't want to necessarily have like shoved a third player into like third wheeling mechanically. A mechanical third wheel.
I mean, that's how you get balance, right? Like, I like the idea of like love triangles and stuff between these weird squires, but also it's probably more likely to be a 2-player game. And it's like you only see people at these national jousts or like when there's a war on or whatever. So it's a sort of, oh yeah, no, I've been betrothed to the local blacksmith's son or whatever. It's like, oh no, will this be the last time we ever see each other? And then it's like, last romantic tryst, you know?
So do you think you maybe also use the time skip thing from...
Yeah, so I think it's like it's related to Gauntlet Virtuous, but without all the exciting knightery. But it is more like common people in medievally sort of times.
I'd say I don't necessarily think squires are common as
yeah,
usually.
It's probably a bit higher up in the class structure.
But I get what you mean. Like it was an interesting thing because like the Gallant and the Virtuous, a fun thing I found about the characters is while like Joust are like exciting, there is also the aspect that like, except for the character who eventually dies, the things you're playing out are not the most important events of your characters' lives. And there's an interesting connection here where like in this case, you're not even the most important characters in the things you're playing out, which is I think that's a sort of fun dynamic.
Yeah. Then perhaps instead of it just being Gallant and the Virtuous, but you play as the squires, it could be like a letter writing game where you play as two different squires separated across the country, and you're like telling them of the local goings on and like, I miss you so much. When will I see you again? I hear Lord Arthur is planning a coup.
I think there's an interesting thing about a letter writing game, which then has a component when your characters do meet up. But I'm trying to figure out what is the letter writing game that's not just like fully immersive, write a romantic letter to the other person you're playing the game with.
Yeah.
Like, because that feels like kind of like a lot, but also I'm like, it doesn't entirely feel so gamey. It would feel then
like a
disconnected.
bunch of lists for like local events and like life events for your person, and then like maybe there's stuff that like stops the letters getting through or whatever, like if there's a war on or a siege or some shit like that, or you get invaded.
Yeah, I think they could be like the way the time skips work in Gallant and Virtuous is you just roll on them for events and then are sort of like declaring what happens. But I do think there's an interesting thing of like you have your plans of the letters you're going to write, and then you have to find out what the events are, and then it's like, oh no, these letters aren't actually going to get through because of X, Y, Z, or yeah. I think it's like this feels kind of like a 3-part game. Like there's the in-person aspect, there's kind of the solo aspect of determining what's going on in your kingdom or to your characters, and then there's also the letter writing aspect.
Yeah, I think
which is an odd thing where the letter writing
thing where you meet at the fair or whatever it is, and then you go away and you write the letters and generate your little kingdom or whatever.
Yeah, its pace is interesting. It's interesting. I still think the thing I find is like it feels like the letter writing thing is both the most important part of the 3, maybe, while also simultaneously being the least gamey. Which isn't itself fine. I'm just also like, oh, would I want to play a game with someone that is just like, you kind of just fully are having to write romantic letters? It's maybe I think it's a quite vulnerable thing.
I think we should encourage vulnerability in our role playing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fine. This is more me. I'm not saying like, oh, it's so vulnerable, don't make this. More I'm just like, yes, I think it's the lack of the gaminess to the letter writing thing. I could see how it'd be intimidating. But, you know, I write plenty of games where I'm like, oh yeah, a point is being intimidating or difficult or turbulent or whatever. Because obviously the interesting view of this is like, who would you play it with? Because on some level, I'd find it weird, or at least like oddly jarring to play this with someone I am in a relationship with. I'd almost find it odd to be doing a sort of like, okay, I'm now writing as a different character, but I am writing love letters to my boyfriend, but not to my boyfriend, to someone else they're playing. And at the same time, I'd find it maybe too weird to play with someone else.
Oh, I think this is a game you play with someone you want to fuck, but you haven't yet started fucking.
Maybe this is the problem. Maybe I can't envision myself playing this game because I'm like, it would feel a little inappropriate for me to do it in a monogamous relationship.
It's called polyamory, baby. Look it up.
I've done enough looking.
True enough. Yeah, so it's called Thirsty Squires. No, it's not.
I think that would be an oddly jarring game because it feels like the tone of this game is quite tender.
It's romantic. It's not about shagging in the horse shed.
It's also it feels like a very sincere game. It doesn't feel like there's much edge of irony or lightness to this. Not lightness, but
I get it, yeah. Sealed
irreverence
with a kiss,
or whatever.
then.
Sealed with a kiss works. Yeah, and do you want to go through your other idea?
Yeah. I just posted these back to back on Blue Sky. I don't know what came over me, but it is World War II, and you play as a small band of brothers on a hexcrawl from Dunkirk to Berlin. And you have a bunch of like hexes and like, yeah, it's a French village. It's the border between two countries. Whatever, random encounter table for, do you meet some locals? Do you come across another group of allied soldiers or, the enemy? And I think it's like about ammo and equipment maintenance. So you like have to find locals who might give you supplies to help you keep going. And my original pitch of this is because Alice was playing Trench Crusade, and I was like, is there Nazi zombies in it? And she was like, kind of. But they're more Nazi ghosts. Yeah, maybe there's Nazi zombies, possibly as an expansion.
It's interesting, because until you say that, I'm like, okay, I can envision what this game is. You are making a very straightforward, focused, like, military simulator RPG. Historical military simulator. Yeah. And then obviously when you add zombies, I'm like, okay, are you making Call of Duty the game?
Yeah, no, I was thinking, what's the RPG for Call of Duty Nazi zombies? But I think if we cut that line, it's also a pretty cognizant, fully fleshed out game.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have much to riff on this, because I do feel like you've just come with this game wholly there. There's not much I can expand about ideas. This would not be like a game I'd feel much interest in, but I can see how it really works for the audience it would be for.
Yeah. See, when I pitched this to Alyssa, she was like, isn't that just Eat the Reich? And I'm like, no, because one, it's zombies instead of vampires. And two, well, actually, you're killing the zombies, not playing as the zombies. So, totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also, just from how mechanically you're describing it, it does sound like it's a much more, like I say, simulationist game focused on verisimilitude and stuff.
Very crunchy. You've got to make sure you've got enough room in your bags for all the ammo and the food and whatever.
So while this idea came to you fully formed, is it one you are interested in making, or?
I can see a world where I'd play this. I don't know if I'd sit down and, like, fucking work out what the ammo count in an M11 or whatever the hell is, but, I can see this as a game on a shelf, so, like, someone should buy it.
I also will throw it out that I wouldn't be surprised if this game very much does already exist.
Yeah, I can see that.
That wouldn't necessarily feel like a surprising thing to me.
Maybe it's like a campaign structure for a war game, but if this was more like a sort of XCOM player versus GM sort of thing, I can see it as like a unique game that hasn't been made yet.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. This is just sort of because I remember there was a blog post. I think it was from like Clayton noticing, if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm not sure I am. Talking about like how common mashups, like genre kind of mashups, are in TTRPGs, and also then arguing for maybe less genre mashups, like doing stuff more sort of just like
straight up, yeah.
Yeah. And it talked about like a couple of different reasons for that. And like one was talking about like how a mashup gives irony, and obviously also in some like, and that as both a, yes, that's part of the appeal, but also maybe a flaw in this argument. A thing I think it didn't address that I thought of was like, oh, I do feel one reason mashups are popular is because they are a very quick way of making sure something's not been done. Like obviously it's the thing when I talk about this idea, I'm like, yeah, this probably does already exist, and you would be obviously just like competing with an idea that probably already exists. And the obviously here sometimes it depends on the popularity. Has this been done very popularly? Has this been done very prominently? Versus like if I just whereas versus a mashup, you just need to look up, okay, no one's done a mashup that is this with this specific kind of fantasy element. It gives you a sort of immediate shield of like loose originality. Whereas obviously I think it is more, if you are doing something more straightforwardly, there is often like a thing of you're having to kind of make the argument of, and this is maybe kind of like the best possible version of this idea, and that's why it's worth doing, because it's not original.
Yeah. It kind of feels like you're saying, like a shield for, oh, but it's not just a copy of XYZ because it's got zombies in it. Like, but the sincere version of this might probably be better.
Mm.
I guess it's like, oh, if I have a big poster of, say, some World War II guys going over a hill, it's like, okay, fine. Oh, there's a zombie there? That's cool.
I think, yeah, there's obviously then sometimes a thing of like, pitching something as a mashup also just makes a pitch feel more real. And like, this is not me. I think there's like lots of fun to mashups, and sometimes the reasons for them, like I said, I've done lots of mashups. Like a big reason I had pirates in Terminal was a thing of like, so I'm able to say it's more than just Matrix the game. I also felt that added lots of like interesting as me getting to do pastiche and commentary, and there's like a fun thing of those intertwining. But like, yeah, there was an element of getting to go like, here's how it's more unique or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm trying to think of a game I've done where is there a game I've done where its genre is more straightforwardly? Because obviously I was thinking of that noir idea before, and that was noir in space. And partly that was me going like, oh, I think that lets you do interesting stuff. But it did make me, reading this thing made me wonder like, oh, is there something more interesting in just doing a straightforward film noir game? I think it obviously provides more challenging then, because then you're also like locked into a period of history for genres which are linked to history rather than like capital G genre stuff. Which obviously also like it can be a sort of like limiter, which in itself, like, constraints do often breed creativity. It's just a sort of different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
I had an idea for a name that randomly popped in my head once, and I thought, like, during this last week, and I thought, like, oh, that could be a good idea for either a Jekyll and Hyde thing or something about, like, messy superheroes, I guess.
Go on, then.
The name was just, like, Alter Ego Trip.
It's a good name.
Yeah. And you see why I'm like, it's either Jekyll and Hyde or it's superheroes who are just a bit messy.
Didn't we do a game quite recently about superheroes who are high?
Yeah. Yeah. This I imagined, I think in my mind immediately goes more to like, so is this BoJack Horseman, but for superheroes? What's the version where it's Jekyll and Hyde? I feel like... Have you ever read Jekyll and Hyde? Like, read the story?
I can't say I've ever interacted with anything Jekyll and Hyde.
Fair. My interactions with it are limited, I guess, but I have read the story. Which obviously the popular idea of Jekyll and Hyde is kind of like Hulk-esque, right? And often he
Yeah.
looks different, or he looks the same but is now more stronger or so, lots of things. Whereas the interesting thing about the book is like he categorically looks different, and there's maybe there's an implication you can read of like maybe Hyde isn't a different person. Maybe he just looks different, and Jekyll takes this to be a horrible person. Which is obviously lost when they look the same but are
Yeah, I
more
always
superpowered.
imagined it being a sort of like Superman dishevels his hair when he's Clark Kent or whatever.
Yeah,
He's
whereas
all hunched over and blah blah blah.
yeah, in the book it's more like no, Hyde looks different, but maybe isn't a different person.
Right, so it's just kind of an excuse for him to be.
Yeah, like that's definitely like a valid reading, which is kind of taken away by things of doing. I guess that's the thing. Like you can also very much use Jekyll and Hyde as a way of doing public domain Hulk.
Yeah.
And I do get the appeal of doing that. It's like Hulk's a fun character. He's also a bit Jekyll anyway. It's a kind of funny thing. Like Jekyll and Hyde informs Hulk, and then like the most sort of more popular images of Jekyll and Hyde now are very much a Hulk informed reading of it.
Yeah. So I think if we didn't want to do a Hulky Jekyll and Hyde thing, no, my brain's just providing things that are just dissociative identity disorder, so let's not go there.
I mean, that's obviously the thing if you are doing the Hulk version of it, because obviously Hulk is kind of a character with dissociative identity disorder, regardless of realism and level of portrayal. But like that's kind of straightforwardly how the character is. So I don't think you could get away with that. Unless you're doing stuff like he's contained in the serum, which is inherent. You're at that point sort of still doing plurality, but just adding layers of deniability. I think the thing about like doing the original but kind of straight is the story's kind of restricted in that way.
Yeah, it's like my idea of like, oh, it's two players playing the same character and you both kind of have influence over them. But then that's just everything is Jim, kind of. So
yeah, I think I've just thought of something that could work to sort of rescue. I don't know, rescue, but like I was thinking, I was suddenly like, do we do a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen game? And then it was like, that sucks, but then it was like, no, because that doesn't really fit the title we came up with. And then I was like, oh wait, what if the game is just Jekyll and Hyde meet the Invisible Man? Because the Invisible Man is also a scientist who is able to disappear from his identity via his experiments and then uses that to be a horrible person. So I feel like maybe the game's something about these two forces playing off against each other. Like it is maybe just kind of like a public domain gothic horror, not even gothic horror really, more like universal adjacent horror thing with pre-written characters who come from public domain. You maybe do a more specific version of both of them. They probably both have their own abilities and stuff. And yeah, maybe it is the collision between. I'm now realizing maybe I'm pitching just another scenario for Fear the Taste of Blood, but also I think you could use it in a different way. There's maybe it's a 4-player game instead, where it's like GM, Jekyll and Hyde as one character, as one player. And they can play with the ambiguity of like, oh, like, Jekyll is claiming they're different. Are you playing them as different, or are you playing them as the excuse? One player, the Invisible Man, and maybe someone else. Actually, maybe the GM plays all of the town's people caught in between these monsters, or maybe there's a GM and then there's someone who gets to play the human. Or not the human, because Jekyll and Hyde and the Invisible Man are both humans. They're just monstrous humans. Yeah. But like the survivor character, maybe they play that as a third thing and it's a 4-player game.
Who else is in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Because I'm thinking like, I can only think of the pastiches from the Venture Bros at the minute.
I mean, I think in the comic book, which I confess I've never read, there's like, so in the film, it's like Alan Quatermain, who's just played by Sean Connery, is kind of a Bond thing. And then Mina Harker, who's like Mina Murray, the
Dracula,
love
yeah.
interest from Dracula, they had an Invisible Man and Jekyll and Hyde. In the film, it's not the Invisible Man; it's a Invisible Man.
It's a common thing in that world, yeah.
Tom Sawyer was in the film, but I don't know if he's in the comic. The comic eventually does way more stuff, like, and also sometimes it does characters who aren't in the public domain, but are kind of. I think both the film and the comic have the thing where it's like there's an M, like James Bond, which is obviously not public domain, but it's a letter, you can get away with that. And then the M is revealed to be Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes.
What the hell is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Is it just public domain mashup shit?
Yeah, I mean, it's by Alan Moore, the comic book, but ultimately it is kind of, public domain Avengers, which I think the comic does obviously more interesting things with that, but that is the sort of starting point. The film, which is kind of
bad.
It's bad, but it's not necessarily as bad as you'd think. You know what I mean?
It's schlocky.
Yeah, it's not a good film, but it's not really competitive with the worst films ever, in spite of what some people might say. But that's the thing. I think when you get away from those further characters, we lose the ability to use Alter Ego Trip as a name.
As a title, yeah.
I think there's something genuinely interesting about this. Yeah, Jekyll and Hyde meets the Invisible Man thing. I think going back to that mashup conversation we were just having, I think even though, yes, it is mashing up two public domain characters, they're both like early sci-fi horror kind of in a way. So they're of a piece in a genre, and you can just play something very straightforwardly when doing this.
Yeah.
Could I see myself writing this as a sort of... I have been thinking recently, I kind of do want a project that is just in the notebook stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see this as a Ratwave product, and it's got a really pulpy cover.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you add like a bunch of other like classic alter ego characters.
Yeah.
Like a werewolf or something.
I think it's fun. I could see it as a sister game, maybe, to Fear the Taste of Blood, because obviously that's very focused on like a monster, survivors, and the night. It's that sort of like free roll, whereas here this is very much about a conflict between two people who are monstrous. But yes, because I'm in the middle of two big writing things, and then I have other games that are like
in the pipeline,
also at a writing phase, but they're kind of just like paused because they're at the big focused writing phase, and that space is taken up by other things, or they're like further along to layout phases or whatever. It'd be nice to have a project that I can just be like idly tinkering with when I'm feeling creative but not productive in a work way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, ideas at the wall stage.
Yeah. Do you think Alter Ego Trip is a good enough name, or would you just call this game, call it The Invisible Man meets Jekyll and Hyde?
I mean, Alter Ego Trip, if it wasn't just these two characters, yes, and maybe it's a buddy comedy where they go on a road trip, perhaps. But
actually, that's another pitch on that game. We're probably at the end of the episode, so we maybe don't want to riff on the road trip Alter Ego thing.
But like, yeah, I think if it was just these two guys, I think you just play it straight, and it's like The Invisible Man meets Jekyll and Hyde, and you like do like a full 50s movie poster for the cover.
Yeah, see what shit is dropped in public domain things. Also, like, yeah, both the original books are in public domain, and they are also both. I say books. Jekyll and Hyde is a book. No, they are both books. I've read both of them, as well as having seen the original Invisible Man film and stuff. So, yeah, I could see it. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening to Game Soup. Have a happy Valentine's Day, and check out Chloe's sale.
Please buy me a new car.
Bye.